So smart home is a luxury product. How mature do you think is the Indian market right now in comparison to the global market?
See, Indian market has a very so basically from a like if you compare on total number of cameras installed per head, per unit heads, Indore in India and Hyderabad in India, they'll rank in top five along with London and Beijing and Tokyo, right? So there's a lot of government side push on basically on the electronic surveillance side, not exactly smart home. Smart home is not picked up in any major way.
Hi, good evening. Today we have Soni Singh and Santosh Singh, co-founders of Maizic with us. Before we delve into the topic that is Indian smart home landscape, I'd like to know about your individual journeys because, entrepreneurship and the journey towards it, it's people have different stories. So first, Soni ma'am, I would like to ask you, how has the journey been as a woman entrepreneur for you?
We all are aware. You will also agree to the fact that women in a society, they have to face a lot of challenges. So they mentality is such they are expected to actually do a lot of things in their lives. So they have to manage home. They have to take care of children. They have to take care of in-laws, and they have to make a balance. Society expects them to be a good daughter, a good wife, and a good mother. But all of these pressures never allows a women to actually think about entrepreneurship, because at the peak of their career, they society puts a pressure on them to get married, and even after marriage, there is a lot of uncertainty. So thinking about entrepreneurship or jumping into certain kind of this thing, it wasn't in my mind at all. It all happened back 4 years back. I was in Paytm, and it so happened that one of my friends, is a close friend of mine, she actually got married. And once she got married, she had a kid, and everything was fine. But suddenly, a lot of pressures come from her family for dowry harassment. So everything was happening. She had to go through mental torture, physical torture was happening. So one day, we came to know that she has done suicide in the sense that she burnt herself alive. That was the most pathetic thing a woman can actually experience in her life, seeing the other women burned down. And I have no idea where, because she wasn't able to collect the evidences. A case was going on, and she wasn't able to present the kind of evidences that what she was actually going through. So this put a very pressure on me. I felt like the helplessness that she must be going through while facing all this. So at that moment, I realized that it's very important that people should, had she known what kind of devices she can use in order to make secure, she could have present evidences in front of everybody. But because of all these scenarios, she had to go through a lot of mental torture. So that was an idea which struck me. So back then, me and Santosh, I just discussed all these things with Santosh, and he was very passionate about it. Since college days, he was actually into security business. He just wanted to be in this business, so we started it. It all started with a simple thing, that we have to help people in order to make them more secure enough to deal it where they can actually install themselves. When it comes to installing security cameras, a lot of mindset is already present, that it will be costly, it will require installation. There is also dependency on installers. How could you install? You have no idea about it. So mostly people face a lot of crimes, they are going through a lot of crimes, but they actually do not able to set it. So I found this gap, and we just made magic with this vision of helping people to install all by themselves. And we have made it so simple that even a child can install these kind of cameras. And we have ensured in different kind of cameras right now. Obviously the journey has been difficult, and for women entrepreneurship, obviously the environment is not conducive as far as society is concerned. So this was actually the vision which moved me in order to launch Magic.
That is extremely shocking to hear. I mean, with all the gender equality thing going on, to be honest, we have achieved a certain kind of gender equality now, uh, at the moment, uh, in the world, not only in India, I'll say, in the world. But to know these things still happen, the dowry things still happen, people like these kind of discrimination still happen. It's very shocking, and your story is extremely inspiring. I'll go to Santosh sir now and tell us about your journey. And I am sure that it's very different from Soni ma'am's. So, yeah, we'd like to know about your journey.
No, basically, I graduated as an electronics engineer from Delhi College of Engineering and have a e-commerce background. So I always wanted to work on IoT side, AI side, and always passionate about how technology can change the world in times to come. Like anything which is not just app-based, but is more like there is hardware involved in that. So Sony, I had gone through a personal tragedy, and she was working on this project, and it is a very personal thing that I felt there is genuine need. So like you're saying, there's a lot of gender equality, but it is not there in tier two, tier three, tier four. Like from a laws perspective, it is there. From societal perspectives, also it is there. But a lot of gender violence happening, like in tier three, tier four. We know so many cases because we have basically shipped 1 million devices, and many of the use cases are basically people try to secure themselves against threat of violence, against things which you may not be aware. Like we know real India, and there's a lot of things that happen, and we are very proud that our focus has always been DIY. So basically, you pick up a AI device, and these devices, like we don't focus on a single device. There's a plethora of devices, mostly AI surveillance based. You can just pick one of these devices, install it yourself. Unlike other install like CP Plus or Hikvision, there's no wiring, there's nothing. Like you can pick a standalone camera. Our service center will call you, will help you install it, use it, and you can service it yourself. And we have made it very easy to use. And to like we shipped 1 million cameras in last 4 years. Last year we did around 300,000, and this year we're targeting 100,000 devices which will be shipped. And obviously, like we are bootstrapped, but from a revenue perspective, we have crossed 30 CR. Like this year, we'll be crossing 30 CR, and pretty fast growing. And I think the biggest moment for us would be like the moment when we launch our own platform. So the entire manufacturing, design, R&D of the entire AI surveillance system would happen in India, and that is like we're targeting that in next couple of years.
That is great. That is great. Coming back to you, Santosh sir, continuing with you, I'd like to know about the market and the industry dynamics of your.
So if you talk about the smart home market as such, it's a very luxury oriented market, but it's a very large market. It's like $1.5 billion currently. When I talk of only a sub segment, which is electronic security surveillance, where we currently play, it's a $1.5 billion market in India, and in next 5 years, by 2026, Gartner predicts that it will be around $5 billion. And of this, basically, mostly it will be like government, and you've heard about smart cities, you've heard about smart transportation, a lot of deployments on that side. But our focus is basically the B2C segment. Like we want to cater to the DIY customer, the customer in the remote tier three, tier four towns. Our focus is mostly impact, not like the current state of the business. We focus on that side of the area, and it's a very different. Like we're a very different positioning than CP Plus, which will participate in government tenders, or say a Creston or Honeywell. So these are all luxury kind of installations, which are meant for lighting control, things which you can do in your home to make it smart, but do not impact your life in a major way. Like it will not be something which will save your life. So we want to focus where the impact is the highest, where we can save lives, where we can make you feel much more secure, and can change the way you perceive. Or so this is what we're working on. There is a sense of community that we're building. If you go through a YouTube channel, we encourage people to discover devices, and then within their community, like and we want these communities to be far away. If you look at our products, so for example, we launched 4G solar. So basically this is a camera which you can put it anywhere without any electricity, without any network, and this will start operating. And you can basically, now farmers are using it in their remote towns, remote villages, to basically monitor their fields, which are like they used to spend their winter nights monitoring it. if you've read Premchand, it is like, winter की सर्दी में मतलब किसान अपने मतलब he's in his field and he's इतनी मतलब he's शिद्दत से वो काम कर रहा है, but all that is not required. Like these cameras are being used in very remote towns and people are sharing feedback on Amazon, on Flipkart, on our own website, and it just makes us feel. And with every launch we see the power of AI, we see the power of AI in changing lives of people. There are many products that we're launching that I'll discuss in detail. So, but from a landscape perspective, I think the launch of 4G by Geo and now the 5G, imminent 5G launch. And with 5G, what will happen is a lot of data can be, so these cameras, like there'll be dedicated SIMs meant for these cameras. So in US, the biggest use case for 5G deployment has been the 5G cameras, 5G outdoor cameras. And with that happening in India, I think there'll be a major boom and jump in the overall business that we do. So we already have 4G range and we are launching a 5G range also.
Now that we're talking about the market, and you mentioned about the farmers, and you also mentioned about how so smart home is a luxury product. So how mature do you think is the Indian market right now in comparison to the global market?
See, Indian market has a very so basically from a like if you compare on total number of cameras installed per head, per unit heads, Indore in India and Hyderabad in India, they'll rank in top five along with London and Beijing and Tokyo, right? So there's a lot of government side push on basically on the electronic surveillance side, not exactly smart home. Smart home is not picked up in any major way. There are no decacons in India. You already know, like there are no unicorns in India which are like smart home based. Because it is a luxury product, it is meant only for like Delhi, like the urban India, and that to tier one, metro one India. But from an application perspective, I think this will be a very large market. Like someone uh, very prominent quoted that the biggest companies in the world have not been created, like will be on AI and have not been started like right now. These are companies which have not even started. In next 3 years the biggest companies will be like that kind of revolution is happening. We ourselves have grown, like Sony started this 4 years back and bootstrapped it, and she has grown it to 30 cr, almost like 120 employees, and plenty of work going on, and growth which I've never seen. So I was leading e-commerce for Home Shop 80, and before that for Paytm I was working in the fashion division, and I also worked with Myntra and Zabong. But I saw the kind of growth and the kind of impact that this is creating, and this is pretty exciting. Like the kind of technologies that we are launching is remarkable. Like one of the product is rental automation, PG automation, rental automation. So you put cameras and locks and the entire property will be automated, and this we have never seen happening. And for example, old age, caring for your pets, like things which you only have heard in science fiction. But from an overall market perspective, I think it's a very government dominated market as of now. A lot of smart cities and smart transportation allocation on the budget side, and there are two dominant players like CP Plus. I'm talking about electronic surveillance. CP Plus is there, and there is a joint venture between Prama and Hikvision, which is a Chinese company, and that also is a driving factor for us. We want the surveillance, I mean the camera, to stream to Indian servers and not to the Chinese servers, and that is currently happening. We want to indigenize, that. There are two dominant players, CP Plus and Hikvision, and we'll be in top six, but obviously like the volumes are not very like we have shipped 1 million cameras as of now, but in strictly speaking of Wi-Fi cameras, we'll be like in top three in India.
That is amazing. Soni ma'am, coming back to you. So because you started the initiative and it's a very unique initiative in India. What do you think are the key driving factors of the industry in India?
For entrepreneurship point of view, I think the key driving factor is the customer experience. I mean, the kind of experience that I have interacted with almost 5,000 people personally, and get to know about their different kind of queries that they face. There is a working women who have to take care of the children. She has deployed some maid, and a lot of crimes are happening. So one peace of mind, there is no peace of mind because of that, because constantly you are in fear that something might happen. So this is also the this is one of the driving factor. And a lot of thefts are happening, and there are areas where even animals are also acting as a threat. So instead of having field, and if a person is monitoring that field, then he's at threat, right? So installing these cameras will actually solve a lot of problems. So you are sitting somewhere, I also get calls from Saudi Arabia, from America, that so and so I have to take care of my parents there, I'm installing there, can I install from there? A lot of questions which is related with just monitoring from remote view. So I think we have been able to solve a lot of problems regarding that, and still we are getting a lot of customers queries, and we are solving them based on parameters. That's why we there are areas where you do not have the power, you do not have the Wi-Fi connection, how could you provide that? So we worked on all these parameters, and yes, customer experience is one of the driving factors. And earlier on it used to be, the only the rich can install these cameras, because there was no awareness. And traditional cameras, obviously you require installers to install the same, and there are areas where installers, you can't even afford the installers as well.
So basically, to summarize, it's basically from what we hear from consumers, the driving factors has been the launch of Geo. So basically coming of 4G, now data is very cheap, and plus there's larger bandwidth available. There's affordability in the technology itself. So now we are shipping standalone cameras. Earlier, for even CCTV, normal CCTV installation, you used to invest 20-25,000. So it's much more affordable. There is a lot of urbanization happening. So people are moving to tier one towns, and so they need to take care of their parents in remote towns and other things. And Simantini, we're talking not talking of the entire smart home landscape, because we will not be experts in that. We are talking about electronic surveillance, and that is where we focus, and that is the market that we deeply understand, like from consumer perspective. Like Sony is telling, like there's a lot of inputs that we are getting, which maybe is not, the market is not aware. For example, the working women, like the increase in the percentage of working women has led to a lot of, like they are concerned about their pets, about their child which is at home with a maid, so they want to monitor it. I mean, they're willing to spend on that. Plus there are people who are in the remote countries like Saudi Arabia, US, who like to monitor their properties or parents back home. And these kind of things are which are driving it. And there's a demand, in fact, in tier one, but a lot of demand in tier two, tier three, with Geo becoming ubiquitous. And we think like 5G will be the moment of reckoning. Like 5G will ultimately, now we'll be able to ship SIMs with our camera. So the camera will start functioning itself. There'll be no separate SIM required, and the bandwidth allocation and everything will happen automatically.
And also, I think services is one of the differentiating factors which Magic is very unique about. And our main focus is in providing these services to the customers. So even without any technical know-how, a person can install them easily. In 3-4 minutes, they can get live.
Great. We are talking about the consumer perspective a lot here, and it is one of the driving forces, as you said. And so, what do you think are the challenges? You mentioned it subtly, you mentioned it a little about the consumer challenges that they face. But what do you think are the, actually, let's focus on that, and let me ask you, what are the challenges that the consumers face in this?
So I think like the biggest challenge is currently the system is such which is based on intensive distribution. So there'll be an installer. So there is CP Plus, like CP Plus is the brand, and then there'll be so many installers in every town and cities, and they'll provide the end service. So the consumer is dependent on them to basically know which device, what to install. They don't care. And so there's a deficit of trust. You know how when unorganized installation happens, or unorganized service, the service is very fragmented, very unorganized. There's no standard, so like no, the pricing is not very transparent, the products are not pretty open, and the services are also not standardized. So the market is very nascent, and there's a lot of standardization that we need to do, that we'll be doing on services side. And I think the biggest challenge is that uh, basically there are no products designed for the Indian market. Everyone designs for metros, everyone designs for US and Europe, like 10 minutes, like people are doing products like 10 minutes delivery and food delivery and everything. But when you talk about the core need of a tier 3, tier 4 town, which is not a very large market currently, the innovation is not happening there. So we need to launch as many devices as possible. There is no one size fits all product. There has to be multiple. Like Amazon cannot do it, Mi cannot do it, because they'll have to launch mass products, single products. So they tried it and they failed. So Mi has its own cameras. Google also launched, but they were only single camera. What we understand from consumer feedback is, we have the largest assortment. Currently, we have around 140 cameras, and meant for different purposes. Like a woman can put a camera in the button if there is a dowry harassment or anything of that kind. There is solar cameras, there are 4G cameras, and there are cameras which you can bundle with your 4G router. There are outdoor cameras which can work in rain and dust. A lot of options that you can choose from, and this kind of innovation has to happen. A farmer in India will not use a product just because Google is selling it, right, for American market. It has to be customized for India. So for example, in a 4G solar, we actually had to remove need for power. So we put a solar panel with the camera, and we put a 4G SIM, so that there is no network required, there is no power required. So usko utha ke you can put in a field and get started. Very India specific innovations which would cater to the market. So until you cater to the needs of the market and we understand it, so when we talk to consumers, we understand, I think, and this is a very good place to be, we understand the Indian consumer market much better than say CP plus or people sitting in China understand. So that is a key. So one of the challenges is that people don't understand the Indian consumer and the mass market. They understand Delhi, they understand Mumbai, but they don't understand what is happening in Balia and Bahraj.
And also, there is not much awareness about that these standalone cameras exist. Whenever installing security cameras comes into the mind, it's always, a lot of systems will go into it. It will be costly or something like that. But we are just trying to create a platform where each and everything exactly you can get the cameras as per your customized requirements. And there are standalone cameras, just put the adapter, go live in 3 minutes. So these kind of awareness is not in the market right now. So I think this is the area where we can get the leverage, most of the leverage.
So the subsequent question that comes after this is that what is your solution? And most importantly, how is your solution different from other companies?
So basically, Magic understands the consumer. So basically, we make the devices very affordable, very easy to install. So unlike other players, there is no complex installation required. There is no wiring required. You don't need to depend on a service center. Even if you are in a remote town, you can just order it from e-commerce. We are a completely D2C brand. So we don't put any medium, any installers or any distribution in between. You can install the camera yourself. Our call center 24/7 will help you install it. You can use it, you can troubleshoot it. And in case of any issues, you can just send it through a post. So you yourself can actually, you don't need to depend on anyone. That's the primary differentiating factor. Everything that we designed is designed with this customer in mind. Like somebody who can use it all by himself without need to go to a service center in a metro, without need to consult any installer. So there is a dependable service that we can deliver. And this is what is making us win. So we are differentiated in the sense that we focus on this customer. We want to enable this customer, and we create all our content, all our platform, all our products totally targeted for this customer. We don't try to charge more, we try to charge less. So like if a CP plus will give you a solution for 20,000 with 4 cameras, a DVR, a NVR, a hard disk, so we'll put all that functionality in a single camera. We'll charge around 3,000 and we'll give you that camera. So our solution is basically to encourage this DIY culture, so that even in the remotest part, India is a population. So there's a population of billion, out of which almost 60% live in villages, and they don't have access to service centers. If you, Simantini, understand, like if you are from a remote town, you will understand like the access to technology is pretty hard, and we are trying to solve for that, which others are not doing.
That is very practical. And so we have touched upon it, you have touched upon it, but what is your contribution? What is your contribution towards the industry?
So what we have done is we have disrupted the traditional security market by making it wireless. There's a lot of wiring that was required earlier. There's a lot of hard disk and other things were required. We started doing standalone cameras, which you can install and stream on your phone. So we made it wireless. We made it installer independent. and we made it very DIY. And we are the pioneers in many areas. For example, we launched 4G cameras. We were the first to launch 4G cameras in India. When Jio launched, we also launched our cameras. You can go and buy it from any platform. We are also the first to launch solar cameras, and I think we'll be the first to launch 5G cameras. And because we don't depend on any intermediary, any installer or distributor or anyone else, we have a widest assortment. So if you go to Amazon, search for Magic Smarthomes or Wi-Fi camera or any 4G camera or solar camera, you'll have the biggest range from us. It's not the bigger players, MI or anyone. It's us doing it because we don't involve anything. Like we are not designed to just do intensive distribution. We focus on technology, whichever is the best technology, we remove everything in between and we launch it, and we have a community where the user himself can use the device, and then they start propagating it in their community. So this DIY culture is what we brought in. This is what is revolutionizing the entire industry, because now even people who were not even considering, like people with very small pockets, a farmer is a farmer, or say a very maid, they are also using, they also are getting access to these technology and they're able to use it.
Your approach is extremely practical and inclusive, which I thought is the best, which sets you
Also,
apart as
also
well.
Simantri, what sets us apart is our long-term vision. There, we are building our own platform, and what we want to do is basically shift it into a service. Currently, you have to buy a device. We want to change it into a service. Like we are building that platform where you can have rent as a service, pet care as a service, you can have surveillance as a service, guard as a service, and you don't need to pay for devices. You just need to pay for like in a monthly pack, and you can use that entire service. And these will be cutting edge. Like these will be the cutting edge AI features which will not, no other player can actually do it in the market, because they need to focus, like I told you, on building distribution, building installers, building distributors, creating a lot of inventory. But our approach allows us to do that. We'll be the first to actually make all these product as a service rather than a product sale.
That is great. Coming up to you, Soni ma'am. So I like to ask, this is a post-COVID period. We are still facing the effects of COVID. COVID, and COVID has had a large impact on every industry, every economy, the society, everything. So what were the impacts of COVID in your case, in your industry?
Actually, during that period of time, it did affected us because people were not, people didn't focus on these areas much because of the COVID. And since working women were not going outside, so I think COVID has the negative impact on the overall scenario. But after COVID, the scenario has changed. The online people are going online, and they are actually looking out for the platforms where they can actually install the cameras themselves. And I think COVID has not impacted too much, but on the contrary, it did affected. But overall, it has a good impact right now. People are becoming more aware about all these cameras.
But there were supply chain disruptions. Like our supply chain was basically disrupted for months. We were not getting the supply to basically build our cameras, and it happened. And obviously, we were not able to sell it like any other player. So it was disruptive. But I think people are like, this is growing at a rapid pace. Like we are growing at a very rapid pace. The entire industry is growing at a 25% CAGR. So no, not a lot of a pain. I mean, the pain is basically how to handle growth, how to launch more devices. That is what we work on.
So we're talking about growth, and how has this industry evolved in the past couple of years?
So basically, Simantini, you will see with 4G launch, like not couple of like 4 years, like 4G has changed the dynamics of the game. Like it has, like if you look at how much has our industry, not the entire smart home, because we don't focus on the luxury segment, we just don't care about it. We basically in our segment, the adoption has increased rapidly in last 2 years. So from a 5 CR, so we were doing annually 5 CR in 2019 before COVID set in, and we are now 30 CR. So we have grown almost 30 times, 6 times. And we have been constrained by cash rather than anything else, because you need to invest in the devices before you sell them, and there is a working capital requirement. And we have grown 6 times over the period, and we are growing as we speak. Like we're trying to touch 100 CR, and then the partners were getting involved. But I think like this COVID has somehow I don't know why, but the adoption has just increased. So there are a couple of factors. I think 4G. So Geo launched at very minimal data. So data is very cheap. So now these cams and all these devices. So these are not only cameras. So by the way, there are routers, there are walkie-talkies, there is an entire ecosystem, right? And so there's been a rapid adoption. Even Amazon or Flipkart, they are focusing on these categories, and you'll read a lot of news stories. And the thing that has happened is it has shifted online because the offline market was closed. So people started buying online, right? And when they bought our devices, they understood like they can use it themselves, they can install it, install ki zarurat nahi hai. And then they started spreading the word around. Like whoever were passionate users, they are spreading the word, and that is how our growth is coming. And it's mostly organic. We have not been dependent on marketing.
You have a very good vision. Like it's very innovative. So where do you see yourself in the next couple of years, say 3 years? Where do you see yourself
So
in the next?
from a theory, I think Simantini, we're touching on a very right chord, like DIY, focusing on this customers, devices which they can install themselves, and not treating the consumer as a dumb guy, kind of, which traditional consumer electronics does. So in next 3 years, what we want to do is basically introduce cutting edge AI analytic features on our platform. So one, we want to manufacture, build, design the cameras ourselves. We want to develop that platform ourselves, and we want to take that platform to the world, like not only India but to the world, and build a lot of analytics on top of it, like as a service. Like we want to sell our cloud service, storage. We want to sell our specialized services. We want to launch India specific services like Aadhaar card ko read karke you allow access. If you are living in a society, you know how clumsy it is. There's MyGate, there's a lot of stuff happening. We want to work on each of these layers. In next 3 years, we want to become the dominant, one of the dominant, so we want to be innovative. I mean, dominant is not the word, but our ambition is to take this platform to the world, like beyond India. Build the platform and then take it to the world.
That is amazing. So we have come towards the end of our interview, and it was so great having you both. The thought behind your company is itself very unique and personal and passionate, and I'm sure it will grow to great heights. And
Yeah.
India, yeah.
Yeah, because of this personal feeling, tragedy that Sony felt, and because she's building for a very, very specific audience, that is why, I mean, she was able to bootstrap. There's not a lot of funding that she has got. I mean, I joined later. I was working in large companies and I was getting paid well, but her vision was great, the growth was great, and very targeted. I have not seen, I mean, in our space it is mostly like, distribution based, but she was building for a specific audience. Like if I heard about women's safety, a lot of things being done by UN and others on legislation and everything, but her vision that technology can enable to solve such a wide issue. And Simantini, you basically, the powerful thing is when we hear these stories, like, the customers tell us कि उसने मुझे मारा था, मुझे मतलब 2 साल से he was torturing that person, a girl, and then she just recorded and just sent it to police, and immediate action was मतलब because there is evidence, so there is immediate action. People who tell us, like, people who were trying to extort money from them continuously, and they just put a camera and they were able to show it in the relevant courtrooms. And these kind of things, really, I mean, I think like a lot of impact. Our team is very excited, and that is what is pushing the company in a very positive. I mean, the kind of growth that I'm telling you, like from 5 CR to almost 30 CR, without funding, without any cash. So obviously margins are there, is just phenomenal.
And Simantini, it will also give peace of mind to the masses, and it will also give you freedom to the women of a society. It will empower them to actually work. It will empower them to actually work on the things that are really important in your life. So let the security cameras be your security guard, and leave a lot of things to your security camera, instead of just taking out, instead of panicking, or instead of stressing out. So I think this will change the market scenario in the coming years, and it will empower women to a larger extent. And yes, you can have evidences, you can actually install it yourself. You don't have to depend on anybody else for the installation part. So a lot of things will happen as far as security is concerned. The more and more awareness will increase, people will come to know about these AI cameras. They can detect motion. They act as burglar deterrent, and there is a lot of features. There is PD zoom. There a lot of area can be done. Two-way intercommunication is there. So for working women also, I think it is a revolutionary product which we are working on, and with interaction, I think we are going to provide you with the customized products later on in our journey. So hope Magic will grow.
So Sony is very excited about working women. So the product itself is, it helps working women, but obviously is for the larger market. Like everyone can use it, and but Sony is very passionate about like focus on working women, working women. It's a it's like it's a very personal need that she felt, and that's why, and that is a vision that drives all of us.
Yes, exactly. It's very passionate. It is very nice to hear you both speak about your company and about your personal experiences. It was amazing having to talk to you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So thanks, Mantini, for taking out your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Simantani. Thanks a lot.